I am 97 years old. There's something I've never said out loud. Not to my children, not to anyone. For most of my life, I told myself it didn't matter anymore, that it was behind me. But that wasn't true. I carried it. Every day, and yesterday. I did something I should have done a long time ago. I forgave the person who ruined my life. Even now, saying it feels strange. I was 22 when I met him. It was late summer. I remember the heat more than anything, the way it sat on your shoulders, how even the evenings felt slow. I was working at a small shop back then, nothing important. I didn't think my life was about to become anything special. And then he walked in. He wasn't extraordinary, in the way people describe in stories. Not tall in a dramatic way, not particularly striking, but he had this calmness, like he wasn't trying to impress anyone. He listened when I spoke. Really listened. That was enough. I think that's what did it. We started talking, then walking, then planning. It happened quietly. One day he was just someone I knew, and the next, I couldn't imagine a future that didn't have him in it. I told him things I hadn't told anyone, not because he asked, but because it felt safe too. I trusted him in a way that now feels almost naive, but at the time, it didn't feel like naivety. It felt like certainty. There wasn't a moment where everything shattered. That's the strange part. People expect a scene. Raised voices, doors closing, something clear you can point to and say, that was it. But it wasn't like that. It was smaller, quieter. He began to pull away in ways I couldn't quite name. Conversations shortened. Silences grew longer. I would ask if something was wrong, and he would smile softly and say no. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. And then one afternoon, he told me he was leaving. Not in anger, not even with guilt. I think, just a decision he had already made. There was someone else. He didn't say it like a confession, more like a fact, something that had already happened, already settled in his mind. I remember standing there, trying to understand what he was saying, and feeling nothing at first. Not sadness, not anger, just confusion. Like I had missed something important and didn't know when it happened. The pain came later, not all at once. It settled in slowly, like cold creeping into a room. It wasn't just that he left, it was how easily he did it, how everything we had built, at least what I thought we had built, could be set aside so quietly, as if it had never really existed in the way I believed it did. That was the part that stayed with me, not the betrayal itself, but what it said about me. Or what I thought it said, that I had been mistaken, that I had given too much, that I had seen something that wasn't really there. I didn't cry in front of anyone. I don't think I cried much at all. Actually, it went inward. Life didn't stop. It never does. I married a good man some years later. He was kind in ways that didn't ask for anything in return. We had children, a home, routines. The ordinary shape of a life that, from the outside, looked complete. And in many ways, it was. But there was always something just beneath the surface, a hesitation. When my husband would reach for my hand, sometimes I would hold it, and sometimes, without thinking, I would pull away just slightly. Not enough for him to notice, I hope. Just enough for me to feel it. When things were calm, when everything was good, there was a small voice that would whispered, "Don't trust this too much." I didn't hear it all the time, but it was there. Like a shadow you stop seeing because you're so used to it. Years passed. Decades. Really, children grew up. They had children of their own. My husband. He passed before me. Quietly, in his sleep. I sat beside him that night, holding his hand, thinking how strange it was that something so full of life could just stop. I loved him. I did. But even then, even in that moment, I knew there was a part of me I had never fully given, and I hated that. Not loudly, not in a way that demanded attention, just a quiet, persistent regret. A few days ago, I was looking for something in an old drawer. I don't even remember what it was now. My hands aren't as steady as they used to be. I move slower. Things take longer. I opened a small wooden box I hadn't touched in years, maybe decades. Inside were photographs. Old ones. Edges worn, colors faded into something softer. And there it was. A picture of me. And him. I almost didn't recognize myself at first. I looked open. That's the only word I can think of. Like I hadn't learned yet how to hold parts of myself back. I sat down. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Just looking. And something strange happened. I wasn't angry. Not in the way I had been before. I didn't feel that sharp, defensive tightening I had carried for so long. Instead, I felt tired. Tired of holding on to something that had already ended a lifetime ago. It came to me slowly, not like a realization you can point to, but more like a thought that keeps returning until you can't ignore it anymore. I hadn't been holding on to him. I had been holding on to the feeling of being left, the moment where everything I believed about myself shifted, just slightly, but enough to follow me through the rest of my life. And I had protected that feeling, fed it, even without meaning to. Every time I held back, every time I doubted something good, every time I told myself not to trust too much, I thought I was protecting myself from being hurt again. But all I was doing was keeping that hurt alive. I sat there with the photograph in my hands, and I said his name out loud. I hadn't done that in years. It felt unfamiliar, like a word from another language. I tried to remember his face as it was back then, not as something tied to pain, but just as a person. Someone young, probably unsure, probably afraid in ways I never understood. And for the first time, I wondered, what if it wasn't about me? What if his leaving didn't mean what I had spent years believing it meant? That I wasn't enough? That I was easy to leave? What if it was just him, his choices, his limits? I don't know why that thought mattered so much, but it did. Something softened, not all at once, not dramatically, just enough. I didn't make a big decision. There was no moment where I stood up and declared anything. I just sat there, and quietly, almost without meaning to, I said, "I forgive you." No one heard it. There was no one to hear it. And I didn't say it for him. I said it because I realized I didn't want to carry that version of myself anymore. The one who was always a little guarded, a little afraid of losing what she had. Nothing around me changed. The room was the same. The light was the same. My hands were still old, still unsteady. But inside, there was space. A kind of stillness I don't remember feeling before. Not happiness, exactly. Just ease. I don't know how much time I have left. At 97, you stop thinking in long stretches. You think in mornings, in small plans. But I do know this, for most of my life, I thought the person who hurt me had taken something from me that I could never get back. And maybe he did. But I also spent years giving away something else, without realizing it. My peace, not to him. To the memory of what happened. If there's anything I understand now, it's this. Holding on to pain can feel like holding on to truth. Like if you let it go, you're saying it didn't matter. But that's not what it is. Letting it go is just choosing not to live there anymore. And I wish I really do. I wish I had understood that sooner.